evening, everybody. It's great to be here tonight, with all of you for such a beautiful and auspicious occasion. Great to be here at the great Brooklyn School, High School of the Arts. I was in Washington earlier today, working with my colleagues on a whole lot of issues important to New York and our country. But I wanted to rush back to make sure I didn't miss the opportunity to swear in my congressman and friend, Dan Goldman. Before I get to that, I want to recognize a few people. Our host, Principal Daniel Vecchiano, the and good friend, Rabbi Tomoner from Congregation Beth Elohim, and our great congressional delegation, so many of whom have come here in respect and tribute and joy that Dan Goldman is joining them and making a strong congressional delegation even stronger. A great delegation. I'd like to honor everyone here who made phone calls, knocked on doors, got out to vote for Dan. Raise your hand if you participated in some way in the election. You are democracy in action. The best antidote we have to those who want to take our democracy away, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And I have to acknowledge, it's my own congressional district, I voted for Dan, I'm proud to do that I was on the ballot as well in November, and I'm honored that the voters of New York gave me another full term in office. As of earlier this month, I'm the first U.S. Senator to represent New York for 5 terms. As we enter this 5th term, that we gained another vote, and so appropriate after MLK Day that the pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Georgia, Raphael Warnock, increased our margin. We have a great session, one of the most productive in decades, that benefited all Americans. And so we've got to keep fighting. Now today is a great day. And I'm going to mention 4 reasons it's a great day. The first, of course, it's a great day for Dan. It's no secret that Dan was born with certain advantages. But did he rest on his laurels? Did he just have a good life? No. Dan never took anything for granted. It's a real tribute to him and his personality that he did that. He embodies as well as anyone the old aphorism, to whom much is given, much is required. As soon as Dan graduated with distinction from Stanford Law School, he began serving the public. First, by doing the hard work of clerking for very distinguished federal judges, then by serving as an assistant U.S. attorney for the great Southern District of New York, the most consequential jurisdiction in the country, and he served under my good friend and my former employee, Rita. Incredible record as an assistant U.S. attorney. He took on some very serious criminals, Russian mobsters, Genovese crime families, inside traders, other white-collar fraudsters, all people who believed that they were above the rule of law, which turned out to be the best training imaginable for his next extremely high-profile gig as the lead counsel for the first impeachment of Donald Trump. We have to use the word first. All of us watched on television. I watched, right, also. Dan very deftly questioned witnesses on behalf of the Democratic majority during the House Intelligence Committee's public hearings. Thanks to Dan's careful, precise, persuasive work, the House voted to impeach Trump. And in the Senate trial, all Democrats and 1 Republican senator voted to convict. The first time in history that a senator voted to convict a president from their own party. It was clear to all of us then that Dan was destined for even greater things. And now we are celebrating the next chapter in Dan's incredible career by swearing him into office as U.S. Congressman. It is a great day for Dan. Congratulations. Dan's family as well. That's the second reason it's a great day for his family. His wife, Iwen, his daughters, Emily, Alicia, and Noah. By the way, my grandson is Noah. His daughter, daughters, Noah, N-O-A. In his four-year-old class, there were 5 Noahs out of 19. I know it. 2 girls, 3 boys. His son, Aiden, and his family. We know what our family, those of us in elected life, know what our families have to put up with. I remember years back, it was my daughter's 5-year-old birthday, and a pastor from a local church called me up and said, Senator, or then Congressman, you gotta get out here. There were 300 senior citizens lined up to see the Easter pageant in our church, but Con Ed has locked the door and said we haven't paid the bills. We have, I have the bills here. Please come over. I rushed over, argued with the Con Ed man, finally got him to open up the doors. People saw their Easter pageant, but I missed my daughter's 5th birthday. She's now 32 and reminds me of it every couple of years. Our families also have our backs. A while back, I was talking to a gentleman. I sort of vaguely recognized him. My wife was pulling on my suit jacket. I said, dear, what are you doing? I'm talking to the man. She said, don't you remember him? He insulted you 12 years ago. So it was a great day for the families because they are always there, putting up with us, having our back. And there are many more family members who I'm sure could be thanked today. But I want to especially acknowledge Dan's mother, Susan, of course, his late father, Richard, who died when Dan was young. And I know, who I know is together with your brother, Bill, looking down from heaven and absolutely beaming with pride. So it's a great day for the Goldman family. Today is also a great day for the people of this great 10th New York district, which I am lucky to call myself a constituent of. I know the district well. I live here. I represented a good chunk of it in Congress from 1982 to 1998 when I was then elected to the Senate. And there's no question that this has been an extremely challenging 3 years for our city. The worst public health crisis since the Spanish flu pandemic, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We lost far too many of our neighbors from COVID. I remember late at night just hearing our ambulance sirens go by my little car house. So many others lost their jobs. They lost their small businesses. Their entire way of life changed. And we all remember it. Streets empty, businesses closed. We couldn't even see our loved ones. Heroic doctors and nurses on the front lines risking their lives to keep New York safe. It was the job of our combined congressional delegation in the House and Senate that made great strides and delivered federal aid during the pandemic. More money than New York has received, and they still have some of that money. Dan is going to be just the type of person to make sure that he can ascertain and make sure that those dollars are spent well, go to the people who need it the most, and deal with the effects of COVID that are unfortunately still with us. And furthermore, at a time when our democracy is under attack, as it has never been before, we need public servants like Dan. Those of us in the 10th CE know we need public servants like Dan, whose erudition, whose legal acumen, his moral clarity, and above all, his experience in the trenches will be a necessary and vital counterweight to the extreme MAGA Republicans in the House of Representatives. The citizens of this district, I know you well, we care about our democracy. We care about making our government accountable to the people. And we care about protecting the fundamental rights of all Americans, too many of whom are at risk right now. So it's no surprise that the voters chose Dan, who knows firsthand what it's like to reckon with difficult ethical and moral questions. And his perspective will be invaluable as we continue to chart a path forward. In spite of the storm clouds here on the horizon, indeed some hanging over our head, Dan is a reminder to stay cool. For every person out there who wants to drag our nation back in time to a more retrograde era, there are many more like Dan, like all of you here tonight, who believe in the promise of America. So it's a great day for all of us in the 10th District to have such a fine representative. Finally, it is a great day for the United States of America. Great day what we're doing here tonight. You know, every cold November, the citizenry lines up, comes home, goes to vote. Maybe, you get off the subway, get off the train, you want to get home, maybe put food on the table with the kids, a home home, sit in your favorite chair, watch your favorite TV show. But no, we line up in quiet dignity, wait our turn, and we go into the polling place and vote. And until the last 2 years, we always abided by that decision. Now our democracy is at risk. Our democracy is truly at risk. But I have faith that we will prevail. And why is that? Well, I'll conclude by telling you a little story that gives me that faith. It relates to Benjamin Franklin, who was seated outside Constitution Hall the day after they had written the Constitution. And one of the leading ladies in Philadelphia went over to Franklin and said, Dr. Franklin, what have you gentlemen done over there? What have you gentlemen created over there in Constitution Hall? He rifled back at her. He said, Madam, you created a republic, if you can keep it. Now, what do you mean by that? Here's what the historians tell us. It wasn't what you think it was. There were loads of problems in our democracy back then. In fact, in most states, including New York, you had to be a white, male, Protestant property owner to vote. How many of you could have voted back then? A few. Raise your hands. Don't be embarrassed. Very few. But the founding fathers were concerned about two problems above all that Franklin was talking about. First, would people participate in this new thing they had created, a democracy? They knew you were a nation. They knew we were all busy with our families, with our jobs, with the ups and downs of life that God visits on each of us. Could people even bother to participate? And second, they were worried about who would put themselves forward for public office. They were worried that the people who would run would not care about the community, but put themselves first for money, for power, for ego. In those days, they called them scoundrels. We call them that today, too. Well, look at this auditorium this evening. It's a cold January evening. It is filled with people who participated in our democracy, who participated in community life, in organizations and in groups to make us a more perfect nation. People are participating. Look who we've put in office. Certainly not a scoundrel, not even someone who we would say in certain neighborhoods in my own district are Mitaynes. We have put in one of our very best. So ladies and gentlemen, if Benjamin Franklin were looking down on this auditorium tonight, he'd smile. Because of you, because of our fight and our struggle. This is the democracy they wanted. So God bless Dan, God bless his family, God bless the residents of our great 10th district, God bless the United States. While they come up, Dan is taking the oath of office under a siddur, a Jewish prayer book that Corinne and Dan used at their wedding. Amen. Okay, Dan, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Dan Goldman,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of United States Congressman
of the office of the United States Congressman
to the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
sure everybody can hear me. Thank you all for being here. It feels a little bit like my bar mitzvah, but it's truly humbling to be standing here as the new congressman for the new 10th district of New York. We were asked at our orientation event to all the new members to stand up and say something cool about your district, and I was very honored to be able to stand up and say that my district is actually the coolest district in the country. It's so nice to be able to be sworn in today by the legendary Charles Schumer, who many of you know as the superb majority leader of the United States Senate, but I prefer to think of as my constituent Chuck from Park Slope. It's really nice to be here in Brooklyn, representing Brooklyn, especially because along with Senator Schumer, we have Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Brooklyn is at the top of both bodies of Congress. I have very large shoes to fill, as Brad said, and it really is an honor that the Congress members who have previously represented parts of this district all came tonight to be here to welcome me, and thankfully for me, this is not the first welcome. They have all been incredibly generous with their time, with their guidance, with their wisdom, and I'm very grateful for all of that. Congressman Nadler, who did have, as he said, about half of it, all of the Lower West Side of Manhattan and into southern Brooklyn. When I was on the campaign trail, and I would be in the parts of my district that were his, I cannot tell you how many people came up to me and basically said, in various different ways, that if you can just be like Jerry, we'll be in good shape. And that is also a tribute to Amy Rutkin, his chief of staff, who's here, Rob Gottheim, who's his district director, who've been with him forever. Jerry's team has helped to define how I want to be a representative here in the district, and his leadership on issues of constitutional law, which are near and dear to my heart, are big shoes to fill, and hopefully I can do that and learn under his tutelage. Congresswoman Velazquez, as she mentioned, when my district now has the most Nydia developments of any in the city, which was a surprise to me. And right as soon as I won the primary, I got to work, and already I've met with the Tenants Association leaders in every single development in my district. And a guidepost for me in representing the residents and tenants of our public housing here in New York City is Congresswoman Nydia Velazquez, who has been such a strong fighter. And I truly am honored and privileged to be able to join her in putting forward and introducing once again the Public Housing Emergency Response Act, which will provide essential and necessary money for capital improvements to Nydia developments. The bill, based on formula of what the need is, will give $32 billion to Nydia to do the work that we all know is really necessary. Now, it almost passed last Congress. We've got a real uphill battle this Congress, but we are determined to keep fighting, and if we can't get it through this Congress, we'll be ready January 2025 when we take back the House to pass that. And certainly last but not least is my good friend, Congresswoman Yvette, who has provided me so much wisdom through the campaign, after the campaign, to really understand all of the different responsibilities that you have as a member of Congress. Of course, we're down in Washington doing as much as we can to fight for our democracy, hold people accountable, pass legislation, but we also have to be really present and on the ground in the district to make sure that issues big and small for our constituents are properly addressed. And Yvette has been such a model and mentor for me in that, so thank you very much for being here. I'm really grateful that so many of my colleagues overlapping in the district from the city council and the state legislature are here, especially those folks who I believe came back from Albany today for this. Thank you. State Senator Iwen from the Sunset Park in South Carolina is here. Assembly members JoAnne Simon, Bobby Carroll, and Grace Lee. Council members Lincoln Restler, Keith Powers, Chris Marte, Rita Joseph, and Erik Bottcher. Thank you all. Of course, our Comptroller, Brad Nadler, who now is City Comptroller, but of course was in the City Council representing a big swath of the 10th District for many years and incredibly ably. Thank you for being here as well, Brad. And thank you to so many of you who are here who really did shepherd me through the campaign and into office now. It's an honor. There are too many of you to name, but I'm really grateful that you all showed up. Thank you to Rabbi Timoner for the lovely invitation, and thank you to Daniel Vecchiano and the Brooklyn High School of the Arts Choir. Looking forward to the remaining performance and our fabulous Lunar New Year performance by the United Fujian Seniors of Sunset Park. And then I also just want to take note, and I think this is something that we ought to be doing more of, particularly with January 6th so close in our rearview mirror now, the second anniversary, with the officers of the 84th Precinct who do so much to keep us all safe. Thank you for being here. Most importantly, I want to thank my family who's here. Three of the children came up here. You saw one has refused. My kids were my secret weapon on the campaign, and it was so nice to be out there with them. It's been really a pleasure to have their involvement, their support, and to have their sacrifices, as it's not easy when I'm down in DC for several, 3 or 4 days a week. So thank you guys for putting up with me. But I especially want to thank my wife, Corinne. I chose our wedding store to get to use for the swearing in because, unbeknownst to me, that turned out to be the greatest decision that I ever made. And this is not exactly what either of us had planned when we got married. And she has been such a rock and such a support. Obviously, with young children, there's a tremendous amount that falls down to her. But it's not just the sort of traditional support that a politician's spouse plays. She is my smartest advisor, and she was during the impeachment investigation, the best lawyer I know, and I'm very lucky to not just have her support and her love, but also to have her wisdom and guidance. So thank you. So that was some first 2 weeks. It was, I think we saw a little of everything, and I think that what we saw in that first week was a foreshadowing of what's to come in this Congress, which is Republican chaos and dysfunction. I think when you are going to measure on a spectrum the quality and competence of speakers of the House, you will see Nancy Pelosi on one end and Kevin McCarthy on the other end, and there is nothing that is normal. There is nothing that is functional. There is nothing on their side that has any rudder other than power and, to some extent, chaos and destruction. And so we will expect a lot of that. And certainly that is something that I'm very focused on beating back and leaning into making sure that extremism is exposed for what it is, and that we, as Democrats, represent the party of ideas, the party of solutions, which will be in direct contrast to the Republican partisan political propaganda and overreaching investigations and division and hate that we have seen recently. The second week, I was sort of like a pent-up, ball of energy from sitting on the House floor for a week, and we certainly tried to hit the ground running. We, as Congresswoman Velazquez says, we already have introduced the public housing bill, which is going to be something that we're working on. But I think overall, what I'm most excited about is to do what you elected me to do, which is to stand up for our freedom, our fundamental rights, our families, and our future. And I think even Leader Jeffries would be happy with that alliteration. But we already are facing challenges to our democracy, our free and fair elections, and I was very proud to be a leading voice against George Santos and exposing him as a fraud. But I think more seriously, exposing and pushing for more transparency from Speaker McCarthy, Elise Stefanik, and other leadership, because they were in on it. They knew what George Santos was doing, and they were complicit. And I think that story has yet to play out fully. I also spoke out strongly against a new subcommittee in Chairman Nadler's Judiciary Committee, which is really just designed to undermine our democratic institutions, to put more chaos, and to damage the foundation of our democracy. But it's also designed to obstruct justice, because in somewhat unprecedented fashion, the committee has jurisdiction, according to the resolution that passed, to investigate ongoing criminal investigations, which we know, of course, is partly the investigations into Donald Trump. But what is little said is that those investigations are also into members of Congress, the Republican members of Congress, some of whom are under investigation. And so we will need to fight very strongly to beat back those investigations, which I think are quite clearly an effort to do political harm to our democracy and also to President Biden. I also spoke on the floor against anti-abortion bills. We need to make sure that we are fighting for our fundamental rights, our individual freedoms, and I will continue to do that. But we're also legislating, and I was proud not only to co-lead the introduction of the public housing bill, but I was introduced a bill to designate January 6th as Democracy Day, and we have a number of bills that are in the works that I'm very excited about introducing. And we're going to have to continue on both fronts, because we're going to have to expose the extremism. We're going to have to make sure that those are held accountable who either violate the rule of law or are overreaching, but we're also going to have to legislate. And I think what's important is that we can do both. And I am committed to making sure that we're doing both. But I'm mostly committed and very proud of what our district office was able to do, even before we have a district office. So our team here, which is the vast majority of our budget, which was very intentional, a decision by me, because most members have most of their budget in Washington, but I wanted to make sure that we had a really strong staff here in the district, culturally competent, language accessible, to meet the needs of every single member in this district. And notwithstanding that we had no computers, we had no office, they figured out a way to continue to answer calls, to do constituent service work, to get out in the community. And so let's give our district team a big round. In closing, I ran for Congress to bring a different kind of politics to Washington. We need to aggressively stand up for our democracy and against extremism. But we also need to bring new creative ideas for finding solutions, for finding results, for delivering for our district. And I'm excited to bring some of the creativity that Chairman Nadler and I and others used to prove the case in the impeachment investigation not by doing the traditional demand for information, which is often how congressional investigations work, but by inflating pressure around those who we are investigating or around those who we're conducting oversight. And I think that's very important because it applies equally to legislation, it applies equally to the George Santos matter. The more pressure that we are applying and exposing more of the lies, more of the broader involvement in the scheme to defraud, the more pressure comes to bear on the Republican Party to do something about it. And that works just the same way for legislation, and so I'm eager to do that. And we're going to struggle, frankly, to pass legislation in this Republican House. We saw that last week with the bills that they put on the floor, which reflect the new control of the extremists in their party. But there's a lot that can be done here, and I think it's a combination of making sure that we are answering what is coming in, but also that we're engaging folks who have not traditionally been engaged in the political process. We're going to have to strengthen our democracy, but we're going to have to provide solutions. And the ultimate goal, and I'm determined to pursue this, is to make sure that we even the playing field and give access to everyone to pursue the American dream. Finally, this is a group effort. No one can do it alone. So I'm going to pledge to you to be a zealous advocate in Washington. But I need a promise from everyone in this room and everyone else who may see this as well. Every person, we need everyone to engage a little bit more, to do one more small thing beyond what you might otherwise do in your daily lives, to help a neighbor, to help your community, to help the city, to help our democracy. Our collective engagement, our collective advocacy is going to be how we ultimately beat back the threats to our democracy and the authoritarian strain that is in part of the Republican Party right now. That is how we're going to restore the greatness of our country and the greatness of our democracy. And that is how we are going to keep our republic, as Benjamin Franklin said, Senator Schumer described. In the end, we are stronger together. And we need to stick together and work together because our collective action will achieve much more than any individual action. Finally, I want to emphasize, this is important. My door, our door, it's always open. I want to welcome everyone's input, everyone's ideas, everyone's engagement. I truly am at your service. I'm eager to learn, I'm eager to dig in, and I'm eager to be as good a representative of this district as I can. So thank you all for coming tonight. I'm very grateful.